Those bars together.
I have noticed sometimes I'm like, man, I really just blew that mic out, didn't I? I think you're just upset because they won't make another Halo.
No.
Hello and welcome to Strange Conversations, where we gather together each and every week, usually 4 of us, but today it's only 3.
Rest in peace, John.
I thought you said Sean, and I was like, that's not the right person, but that's fine. To talk to you about what we want to talk about. I really feel like I need to get this rigmarole together, and every week I'm like...
I keep waiting on the table hit or something.
I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to write something out, and I'm going to practice it, and then every week, shit happens.
Yeah. Almost like every week.
Oh, hold on. We're not there yet.
I was going to say...
I haven't introduced anyone
call.
on my right.
Can I be handsome Mark?
For today.
He killed John, ate his heart, so he is now handsome.
Stole his good looks.
Handsome Jamark. And on my left,
Dylan's not
and I am your other host, Brent Metcalf.
Woo, he got it.
the other host. Who's the first host?
I mean, I think you're both half a host, so combined.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh, wow.
Slate 'em.
Wow. Every single week there's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of important things. But for us, there's a specific section we like to refer to as the important.
Man, we were on lock that time.
The first bit of news that we somewhat wanted to bring up is that in our never-ending saga of AMD versus NVIDIA, AMD announces that there is it 7 nanometers?
7 nanometers.
Nanometers, yes.
Okay, and actually you're going to love this too.
I know.
In particular, if you saw towards the bottom of that article or towards the bottom of that bit of information, they're prepping 7 nanometer actually for the PlayStation 5.
Can you explain what
Next
7
year.
nanometer is?
Okay, so 7
It's penis size.
I was going to make a joke, but I decided to let it slide.
7
One of us-
nanometers.
one of us is an
continuing on
adult.
and ignoring the crap out of them. 7 nanometers basically is the size of the individual transistors, the switches essentially that exist on a circuit or a processor's logic board.
Mini light switches, if you will.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually are 7 nanometers is also sort of the bottom line of the theoretical limit we have with just silicon.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a lubricant.
they're not going to get any smaller than
Not
that.
only.
They're not going to get any smaller than that, unless you start implementing other materials and things like that.
Yeah.
Because we've finally reached it basically. But 7 nanometer architecture for the Vega 20 GPU is going to be released by the end of this year, and then their Navi
next year.
GPUs.
I said it again next year in the PlayStation 5.
The Navi GPU is actually supposed to be what's in the PlayStation 5, rumored to be in the PlayStation 5, to be released next year.
You guys keep saying these things like I should be worried. I'm not. It's 2020. So what does this mean pricing-wise? Like, does that affect anything, or is this just like flashy new tech that everyone's going to be happy with?
Also, put it this way, Intel is still having problems getting to 10 nanometers, and NVIDIA's or AMD's already coming out and saying, oh, we're going to have 7 nanometers processors and Navi GPUs by next year. We're already going to release our Vega 20 by the end of this year. To me, that's kind of them shoving it sort of in Intel's face, like, you can't figure it out, so you know what? We're going to take the whole market while you're behind.
I mean,
that we're going to take as much of a foothold as we can.
I do find it very interesting because I guess one of the advantages of why AMD continually is able to do this is they run a little bit hot, and they don't. It's not that they don't do heat management well, just their stuff runs hot, and Mark's computer is a great testament to the difference in his AMD build versus my Intel build, which is what I think a big part of the reason why Intel is just like, we're going to stay at 10 and be cool and efficient. I don't think they feel safe doing it.
To me, back then, though, that was kind of like the transition period from whenever we were going with the most powerful, the hottest, just CPUs we could possibly crank out to shove as many gigahertz through a single core as we could.
1,200 power watt,
basically. But and then that was about the point that we started making this transition, basically, because at that time I think it was 32 nanometers is where we were, or something bigger than that, but. That was whenever we started making the transition to making smaller transistors, allowing for better throughput, less power, and better cooling. So I think with 7 nanometers, though, these are going to cool a lot better than the Intel CPUs do currently, though.
I think that the other big advantage is that it's seemingly we're hitting the ceiling. These aren't going to get smaller. These aren't going to get more efficient.
Well,
they're not going to get smaller until we change it.
While I was on this rabbit hole, apparently there's a research institute that actually had come out with a 1 nanometer transistor by implementing a whole other slew of chemicals
Witchcraft.
sort of bond everything together,
Magic.
making the transistor still run off
Sorcery.
a silicone input. Yes, off of a silicone input, but the actual source
Quantum realm.
train on the other ends of the transistor were actually made of completely different material.
Okay.
Part of the reason we use silicone too is because it's the second most abundant chemical
Yeah.
material on the planet. So
Cuts a lubricant.
I mean, it's
So
one of its many uses.
Side tangent. Do you guys just not use heat in winter? You just like crank up those GPUs?
We had to-
and
I'll
you're
have to
like,
I'll
"Eh,
have to I'll have to show you the home server I've got in the
Let it go."
garage.
It's a heater. In winter, you don't need. You could just open the garage doors. It'd heat the whole neighborhood.
I'll put it this way: it's running like 60 nanometers or something like that because it's running CPUs from 2006
Who doggy?
on a Dell rack server.
Time to upgrade.
Oh yeah.
The next little bit of news that we had, speaking of hot places like California's burning right now, California did just pass a net neutrality bill. They're the first state to pass.
Know how to party?
They do know how to party. They know also how to pass bills. They're
They're
the
not
first state to
They're not the
pass.
first.
They're the first state to pass it, though, right? I thought.
Mm-mm. Well, they're actually. I started looking into that more. Actually, they're the fourth. I thought this was big news because like California was.
There's a different reason why it's big news.
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, Silicon Valley and all the
Exactly.
all the internet-based companies are there. Anyway,
That's why it's big news.
let me I guess catch everybody else up to speed here. But basically, California's Senate finally passed 27-12 vote. That
12.
yeah, net neutrality. Basically, net neutrality protections. Yeah. Neutrality protections, very specifically saying that ISPs have no control over your internet traffic, cannot restrict your internet traffic based on the type of content that you're viewing, and that it's supposed to be a free and open utility.
Awesome.
Which is, to me, fantastic that states are stepping up to do this themselves whenever, the FCC decided for some reason that they wanted to undo everything that's already been put in place.
I think we know the reason, but yes, I agree. It's nice seeing this, especially when you're talking about a state that has such a large economy based off the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely excited to see this. Now, to be fair, though, this hasn't actually been put in or hasn't actually been enacted yet.
Yeah.
It still is up to the governor to sign, but to be honest, with a vote like 27-12, I can't imagine it won't.
Just every time the state named California is put out there, all I can think of is the song from the OC by Phantom Planet. California.
I don't know this from that show. But I know what you're talking
No,
about.
because of him, I can't hear the word California without thinking knows how to party.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah, I got you.
he has a little like man stuck in the back of his head that sings it to him constantly.
That's
If it's
probably-
anything other than but if it's outside of the temperature range of 65 to 75 degrees, in my head it's 80 outside, it's humid. California knows how to party. That's pretty much how that goes in my head.
Yep.
The next little bit of news we had is that the Battlefield 5 open beta starts in 2 days. However, depending on you're watching this, it's already live either way.
I would say it would be releasing the day of.
It's also releasing today if you pre-ordered.
Yeah, exactly. So, as of today, September 4th, you're allowed to pre-order it, preload it. And if you've already pre-ordered the game, or if you have Origin
EA
access,
or Origin Super Duper Powers.
Your favorite
whatever their
client.
subscription services,
I think you play is worse, but a close second.
yeah. But you can play early, so you can start playing today. Actually, if you have that, of course, that doesn't. You guys aren't going to see it till anyway.
Hopefully
It's
they'll
going
play.
to be open and available to everybody on September 6th, and you can preload it now to be able to kickstart it or be able to start it up midnight.
And they just announced they delayed it. Because
They delayed the game, that is
into
correct.
November.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so we have an open beta. So this actually might take in feedback, unlike every other open beta that's out there.
What's weird to me about their move back is how seemingly to dodge games it was. Because they're like, no, we're not pushing back the beta. The game's totally fine. We just needed a little more time. You're like, you just said the game's fine. And like, yeah. We just moved it back. It's fine. It's like a month.
I mean,
Meanwhile, their marketing team's like, do you see this and this
Yeah.
and this and this?
You guys
wait.
know. I'm pretty confident. They're like, you know Call of Duty has a BR, right?
yeah.
You know this Red Dead's like a big deal, right? We're in between it. I'm like, no, we're not now.
I've seen a lot of mixed reviews actually about Red Dead.
There's
Yeah.
there's nothing out there right now.
Well,
no. From the
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get
We'll
there.
get there. We'll get there.
Discuss some things. No, I think this is interesting. I don't think they can ever say like we just want to avoid other games.
Exactly.
Like, I just don't think that's
Too
about
much
them.
pride.
That is, well, not just too much pride. Like shareholders
Yeah.
are like, why the hell are you saying that?
Well, it's almost like Watch Dogs back in the day. Like when
Yeah.
Watch Dogs got delayed, at least you had the thought that it was because the game was not ready.
Yeah.
And then when it came out, you know what? You were like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't ready. Maybe you guys
Maybe
wanted
they could have
more of
waited
this.
another 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys really needed that. But this one, it's like, what's worse is from what I'm seeing in the beta, everybody's like, yeah, the game, like, there's only like a couple issues on like PC with frame rates or whatever. But aside from that, they're like, yeah, the game looks and plays really fine. And so I'm just sitting here watching these people play, like, yeah, they totally were like, nah, we're not releasing between those two.
Yeah. No.
We're gonna get killed.
Smart.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also, with the Battlefield thing, the other bit of news is they released a trailer. It's like a 6-minute trailer, basically going
Very good.
over the whole game.
This is Battlefield 5, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, something like that. They showed the BR, which, interestingly enough, they announced today, which we didn't quite put in our notes, but they announced it's called Firestorm. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what.
Firestorm. It's a ring of fire closes
Yeah.
in. It's the large.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's a ring of fire that comes in. They said it's the largest map that they've ever made for the BR.
Which to me is impressive. First off, because
And depressing because they then said that it's only 4-player squads of 16 teams.
oh,
That's odd.
I missed the 16 teams part. I heard the
Yeah.
four-player squad.
So
part.
seemingly no solo or duo
Yeah.
queues, just 4-person squads.
Well,
But 64 players? The reason this is significant that I quickly want to point out is because Call of Duty's Game Informer special started today.
Yep.
And Call of Duty said, we're starting with 80. We've already done more.
Yep.
We're just testing 80.
Yeah.
So it's like, in what world 6 months ago would you have told me that Battlefield's BR is smaller than COD's?
Call of Duty's. I do think
Well, to be fair though, that makes sense actually because the game's always been built to handle 64 people
On console.
on PC.
On PC supports 64 v 64.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, wait. When? Oh, no. That was. That's right. That started with Battlefield 1. That's right.
Yeah.
But
64 v
I
64.
think that this is easily something that they're I don't necessarily think this is a mode they've been working on for very long. They're
Right.
like, we gotta get
Well,
this
they-
done.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the weird thing. They also said, I think this was last week, they said they didn't do it at all.
Yeah.
They had another company do it. That they used their engine and their internal software, and like,
no,
they
we talked
helped
about
them,
this last week. Yeah.
but they had
Oh,
another
no.
company come in and do it.
No, EA, no. You're totally throwing that away.
The reason that this is important is because they did announce that they're doing free DLC for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, correct.
The remainder of the first year. It's called like, it's not War Stories campaign. It's something weird like that though.
Tides of War.
Tides of War, yeah. Which when they first explained it, I thought it was going to be PlanetSide based because like you're going to be able to fight a continuous battle for months. And I was like, okay, this sounds cool. It's like, oh yeah, the Access is taking over this, whatever. And they're like, no, it's just DLC. We're just going to release some other maps. That's it. And I was like, God bless it. And on the continual news of free DLC, Anthem did their big hoo-ha yesterday, it seems. Showed a new, like, 5 or 6 minute trailer, I think.
Yeah.
Like, This Is Anthem. Super cool trailer. Showed a good bit of the story. There's a bunch of, like, breakdowns of it. Very informative. But they did also announce that they are planning free DLC for the game, and it will be freely supported.
It's almost like consumers were really upset when people were releasing DLC, and they're like,
It's
guess
also-
what? We're splitting maps.
It's also really weird how, like, midway through the little new trailer, they show them opening up a loot box and just mid-game. It's, like, weird. I was like, bet you wouldn't show that in a menu screen. No way you would do that. I just think it's, we were talking a little bit before we went on air about, like, the planned DLC thing, and it's just very odd to me. Like, I think there are certain scenarios when games future-proof, like Destiny tries to schedule their things, like, oh, we're going to make a year's worth of content. We kind of want to stagger you. Whereas it just comes off feeling like you weren't done
Yeah.
and you wanted to charge people $20.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I hope that the Division doesn't follow that because they're doing the free DLC plan as well. I hope that it doesn't feel light at the launch, like they try to stagger and try to kind of like wean you on
Like actually
along.
hold back content, maybe.
Yep, and it's just an interesting time we're in.
Being, I think, the only person at the table that completed Division and played the DLC. The reason I really liked their DLC the last time around was that they released 3 major packs. Each one was a different game mode. So it wasn't like continuing story. It was really just changing the way you play the game.
Interesting.
And so for that kind of DLC schedule drop, like that makes total sense to me, where you do want to keep people involved. You do want to try and change it up, try something new. I get peeved when there's like Anthem's talking about having story DLC going forward. And I'm like, that's really cool, except is this real story DLC? Are you going to put stuff in between to carry people over until you've completed that? Or is this cut content that you're just trying to charge for? There is definitely a fine line, and I'd be really curious. Obviously, Call of Duty, Battlefield, like they're doing something completely different. Even with the war stories, this seems more like it's going to be, hey, we're going to have some more maps and there's like some stuff connected in there.
It's really almost like they've had a premium pass that seems exactly like this for like 5 years.
Correct.
This is free.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's to me, it's like things where it's like, cool, you could have just got those maps done instead of having 10 maps launched. We could have had 12.
Well, I do think that the staggering of that kind of content's okay because you do want to keep enough people involved over time. Like, all of these studios are hoping that you're playing their game for the next year. That is their goal, which is the only reason why they're announcing it. It's also why it's all free. Like, and with it being
Except for Call of Duty.
Yeah, except for Call of Duty. With it being free, it also means that it is going to be skimpier. Like that is the realization I think a lot of people have to come to, which is why I think Anthem coming out and saying we're to have story stuff, is that like just side quests? Are we just gonna have some more smattering of these little things here?
Yeah, because like we were talking beforehand about the Witcher's DLC where it was basically a full game.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen ones where like you've seen Uncharted, you've seen Last of Us. And those DLCs they weren't announced beforehand.
Yep.
We had no idea they were coming till after we played the game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then after we played the game, they then, like 6 months later, were like, hey, a lot of people guys have been asking about DLC. We're going to make something new.
Yep.
And it's like, cool. This is awesome. I'll gladly give you my money. Whereas, like, when it's story stuff, it's much more so of, like, how much of this, like you talked about the Batman beforehand.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how much of this is you were working on it, like, we could cut this. This isn't necessary.
Yeah.
But then we'll throw it in later. And when stuff like that's free, cool. But I don't know, just finish it.
Well, and I think Spider-Man coming out this Friday is the big example where they've already announced 3 new packs of DLC. It costs $24 to have them all together or $10 a piece. It involves Black Cat, and it seemingly looks done. Now, granted, computer nerds that we code for a living, you're involved in the industry, but we don't program games, so we're not quite sure how all of this comes together. We have a rough idea. There's a very good chance that a lot of this was, once again, content they're like, well, we'll work on it on the side, and now we're rushing through it. But there's really no conceivable way. They're like, hey, September 7th, and now let's get started on this DLC that's available on October 26th. Like, that's not how that works.
Right.
So it is a weird fine line that I think you have to walk. I would not be surprised if Anthem's stuff is small for now, and then they come out and they're like, if you want the grand story pack or whatever, and it's going to cost money.
Hopefully they don't do Destiny style seasons, because the Destiny new season, the Forsaken or whatever, comes out I think today, and I see almost no one cares about it. And it's like they basically have just dried the well.
To be fair, I only saw advertisements for it for like 2 days. There were 2 different videos, 2 different advertisements. I saw one, then I saw the other, and then I saw nothing.
I think Destiny is a whole other animal, because I think they screwed themselves from launch last year. I think if Anthem launches strong, and I'm using Anthem as the best example because it is the most story-based, at least when they're talking about what they want to do with it. You know, if they come out strong, swinging, and then 3 months after launch, they're like, here's a cool story content thing, and they continue that every 3 months, and then like in the year anniversary, like here's a big story pack. This costs $20, like Forsaken. I think they could really pull it off.
I mean, Destiny got me for 2 years.
I think that's what Activision wanted to do with Destiny and Bungie. And granted, there's complications on how that works out. Activision tends to be a greedy publisher, and you can chalk a lot of that up to there, as well as their terrible release schedule when it comes to Bungie and how they communicate with the community.
Yep, totally. The next little bit of news we wanted, which Mark was talking about earlier briefly, is that they did a PAX behind closed door presser for Red Dead, where they invited people of the media. I don't know what Brent's doing here. They invited people from the media, and most notably, GameStop and a GameStop employee was talking about it. One, no one's supposed to allowed to have phones or film at all. Somebody Instagram storied like the first 10 seconds, because that always has to happen. But it's basically just the screen that says "Don't film this," and then it's like
some
couple
security
seconds.
guy got fired.
But either way, the GameStop employee that wrote this article or wrote this little piece thing or whatever basically said, like, while he does believe that the game is going to be great, he was like, this is probably the worst demo you could have showed. It was basically Rockstar Presents Equestrian Simulator 2018. It was like a 45-minute demo of like 30 minutes of horse riding that was super boring. He said the bank heist felt like a very slow, weak GTA 5 bank heist,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very optimistic about the game in the article. He was very openly like, I think the game's going to be great. I think this was the worst thing you could have showed people, and it basically put us to sleep. Like, it was a terrible demo to watch. And it's like, that is not the media you need right now.
Not at all.
So you chose that demo.
Yeah.
And I'm confident someone there had be like, guys, should we ride a horse for 30 minutes? Yeah. It's a great idea.
I
Meanwhile, some writer in the back's going, that's my favorite part.
I was say, I think it depends on know your audience. Like when you're talking about bringing in a bunch of journalists, especially if you're picking like the IGNs, the GameSpots, like these people who have played the original, they've fawned over it. Like that might have been cool to them.
Yeah.
But again, they're not the only people there
in the audience.
You definitely want to make sure that you are picking the best, because that's what these previews are for.
And I totally did see a couple people were like, oh yeah, the new horse stuff is really cool. Like you have to get a bond with a horse, like it could die and all this other stuff. And it's like, I don't disagree that the horse part could be super cool. I have no doubt there. Like you said, it totally depends on your audience. But I feel like as much hype as Red Dead is riding in, it seems like, not that I think Spider-Man's going to be bad by any stretch, but I feel like it's a very similar trajectory of Spider-Man. Spider-Man was like going upward and upward and upward, and then about like June or July, people were like, hey, this game might be normal. Mm-hmm. Hey, this game might not be like the greatest game ever. This might still be a really good game. Yeah. Just maybe not the greatest. And I feel like Red Dead, everyone's like, this is going to be the greatest. Yep. And then it's like, now that we're like a month out, everybody's like, this might not be the greatest, guys. This might be okay. Might be good.
I think Rockstar was just kind of hanging on to that. Maybe they'll keep thinking it's the greatest until they buy it.
Yeah.
That description reminds me of the demo PlayStation showed years ago at E3 for The Last Guardian, in which it has like the bird dog climbing and then the little boy, and they're on this ledge and the boy falls. And like the most exciting thing in the demo is the tail swings in and the boy gets hit by the tail and he gets to climb up, and everyone's like, well, that was weird. Like, you could have shown us anything for this game.
Dude, that was such a weird demo in general, man. That's like if you hadn't have played Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, when they showed the remastered of that trailer, it was just more of like, you just showed the dude running through a field and he climbed the back of one guy.
Yep. And people were
like, he didn't even stab anything.
This is amazing. Yeah. I love this guy.
What's worse is like, I'm certain if like you were like a newer kid in the industry or like someone who like didn't follow, like for me, I actually played that game, fortunately. But if I hadn't have played that game and I would have seen everyone going hysterical over that, I'd have been like, you guys are crazy. That looked like the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
All I can think of is that poor security guard that got fired. And it turns out he's got a kid who has cancer, terminal cancer.
Jesus Christ.
It gets worse. His wife left him. She's been cheating on him for years. All he had was that one job. And then this dude put his story on Instagram, and he's lost it all. And now he's going on a horse to rob banks himself. This is what happens in my brain when we talk about things.
I was going to say maybe the happy ending is
dark rabbit hole do you have in there?
I was going to say maybe he posts this on Twitter and Red Dead gives him a free copy of the game, but
maybe we just post this clip and tag Rockstar.
Jesus. The last little bit of news we wanted to cover is that after a weird series of events, Google basically said, hey, we're going to completely redo and make awesome the Wear OS. There's not going to be a Pixel Watch this year, though. Why would we do that? That makes sense.
Even though, it's giant rumor before.
Yeah,
sure.
So they basically canceled that. And then after this, I think it was Sunday or Monday, someone leaves a Pixel 3 in the back of a lift.
Yep.
You can't make it up.
The driver had just seen apparently enough leaks or whatever to be like, this is a Pixel 3.
Yeah. What kills me about the whole thing is, like, I really hope at the Google conference in a couple weeks that they just, like, Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, the big tech YouTuber, he said this, and I just hope this comes true. But he's like, how amazing would it be if, for their presser, they just come out on stage and they're like, you're right, and walk away. That's it. Whole conference. It'd be awesome. Yeah. Because I feel like, to me, it is laughable at this point that the whole thing has been leaked. There's nothing that we don't know.
No, it's screenshots, the phone itself, like all kinds of stuff. Like
it reminds me a lot of like what happens in games where like we're gonna wait for this like one moment to do this reveal, and it's like no, at this day and age, if you've hit the leak, just go in stride. Just let it go.
Be the rage. Be Rage 2.
Be Rage 2. That was the perfect example of how to handle
it got leaked out. Here's a trailer.
Yep. Here you go. Here's everything you could have wanted. Done. It's silly.
It's just terrible to me because as much as like it feels like every year you have iPhone versus Samsung versus Google now. Mm-hmm. LG and HTC have kind of fallen. I mean, you do have Huawei who's kept keeping up and catching up, but they're still not like there yet.
What about
supposed to be,
Sony?
like,
They've not been there for half a decade.
No, actually,
They got the best
actually-
cameras, but
Actually,
that's
if anything, on the note of cameras, actually, if you have any other phone company that's really stepped in, well, one, Razer, but on the note of cameras, Red actually has seemed to have come out with a halfway decent phone.
and Razor came out with a halfway decent phone too.
Uh-huh.
But it's just very odd to me that you have these three titans of Samsung, Google, and Apple every year, and it's like we keep getting more and more leaks. But on top of that, is we keep getting more and more disappointed. It's like, oh man, this year's Note could do all this, and they're like, it's just more powerful.
Yeah.
It's got cool stylus.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I was going to say the S Pen's got, a button now.
And this iPhone, we don't know a lot about it yet, but apparently it supports the Apple Pen. So hey, look, we're about to get another stylus.
I mean,
You mean that giant thing that they
A
had?
pencil. My bad, it's a pencil.
Oh.
It's not a pen.
Okay, I was
Of
going to say
course.
the Apple Pen was that thing that was like 1.5 feet long or something like that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
8 inches long.
Yeah, yeah,
That you
yeah.
had to charge to get the bottom of your iPad. I was like, no.
I feel like we're reaching that pinnacle. Not the pinnacle. Pinnacle's the wrong word. We're reaching a plateau with phones where we've kind of hit the stride of this is all we can do. Like, this is cool. This is cool tech that we all are appreciative and happy with. That next big leap, we've got to change the concept of what we do with this phone, much like
Well,
the iPhone did
You mean you've got
years
to
ago.
invent something instead of just innovate something?
Correct.
Well, supposedly it'll be next year because I think it's either Huawei or Samsung next year will release a bendable phone, a fully
folding
bendable
display,
foldable. Yep.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the articles I found, I guess, while I was looking this up was there's another company who's using the flexible displays or whatever to use a band watch, basically.
Yep.
Oh, that's
The
cool.
only problem is that it has like this giant hunk that goes underneath the screen like
Yeah.
this. We'll get there, but
yeah.
but the idea is that, like the concept's there. Actually, I think that would be a much better use of a smartwatch OS.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of random news out of Shenzhen, China. It's like they basically make everything for the world. They're super baller tech people, but they don't do software. They just do all the hardware stuff.
Right.
And they have it looks like a chapstick tube basically, but it's a little bit longer, and it's a button. And it's basically like, those old little like flappy things you like pull down for like sides and stuff.
Mhm.
It's that with a full OLED.
That's cool.
And you can basically pull it out, and
What?
it's like a full OLED. And they're like trying to map touching to it and whatnot, but it fully works. And it's like, whoo, that's cool.
That is slick.
But that
No,
everyone,
it's not. I didn't get together with my news.
yeah, it's weird.
That
That's
was
weird,
weird. It's almost
that's
like you
weird.
forgot. You know
I
what?
did.
I'll leave.
Okay. He's still
Weird.
here.
I mean, I need the attention. I can't leave.
Speaking of attention, Pokemon seems to get all of the attention.
All of the attention. So it was surprising news. It is by far the most profitable franchise out there today, including over Marvel, over Star Wars, over Disney.
Do you know how much this hurts my dignity?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Wow.
And almost like you should, here, just give me your phone. I'll reinstall Pokemon Go for you. The recent estimate is that they have made $59 billion since they released the original games in 1996, which is quite a chunk of change over these other franchises. I don't have the exact numbers for the other franchises, of course, but I mean, the games alone have made $10 billion. Just the games, nothing else included. So that's how much marketing
Control C,
power.
Control V works.
Like, it is insane. Not just Control C, Control V. Trust me, there are ones we got to feed them little berries. You got to make them happy. I'm on the
This
one
isn't a
right now where it's like
Tamagotchi.
Hawaii, where you get to go and you're like, hey, I got to take trials instead of gym battles. I get crystals instead of badges. I love these games so much. But yeah, they made
We
tons
know.
of money. So when you're thinking about like the titans of industry, it is Pokemon. And now they're getting into live action movies. If you have not kept up, we have the Pikachu detective movie with Ryan Reynolds in it. Like, I think there's no ceiling at this moment for what Pokemon can do.
What is impressive to me is the names that you mentioned that it has beaten. I don't think it has beaten any of them in their respective field. However, it has beaten all of them by like consistency.
Yep.
Yes.
Because like gaming, like it's never been the best game.
No.
They've always been really good. Card game, like it couldn't beat Yu-Gi-Oh or like Magic or those other games.
It's still around, though.
It's still around,
Yeah.
and it still did well.
Yeah.
It just was never like the best.
Correct.
And then like in TV and whatnot, it was really good, but it was never like Dragon Ball Z or like that
Yeah.
level of baller.
But it
But it-
wants to be the very best.
The very
Like
best
no one
one
ever
was.
Yep.
But it just consistently keeps up, and just
Yeah.
everything. It's like, oh, it's like top 5 this. Oh, it's also top 5 that. Oh, it's also top 5 over there.
It's insane how popular it is. And in Japan, they have like recently, they're like, hey, we're going to just make a Pokemon Tokyo subway car. So there's that. They make pop-up cafes. They have theme parks. They have.
That's part of my little my TGS list is to go to the Pokemart.
Yeah, buddy. I do want to go to the Pokemart. And then they have the other one in New York City, and I think they're opening one in San Francisco.
Wow.
Like, it's just insane. And then you include Pokemon Go and how much money that's generating. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
And it's not stopping. We have this November 15th, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is starting to really build up steam from like the fan base. They just had World Champions, so they talked more about the game there. And then even people like John, who hasn't played Pokemon since the original Game Boy Advances, he's like, yeah, or Game Boy Colors. Oh, I'm totally down. I'm getting this. He and I are fighting over which version we're both getting. I'm getting Eevee. He can off. I already made my decision. And it's been officially announced here, John. Where are you at?
I think we already had this discussion.
I'm sure we have. It's fine. But the next bit of news, since someone's busy clacking away.
Because somebody likes to drop F-bombs.
The next bit of news involves Nintendo announcing a slew of Nindies. Brent, back to you. Thanks, Brent. Nintendo released a small mic drop of their own this week when they announced quite a bit of Nindies, not just coming soon, but some out there now.
I think there's a word you keep trying to say instead of Nindies.
Nindies. I call it that because that's what they do. I've got a little list here because it's just easier than trying to memorize all of these things. But Hyperlight Drifter is getting a special edition coming September 6th. So by the time this is out.
Has that been out before?
Is it what?
Has that been out before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be a few of those. We can discuss that a little bit. Towerfall is coming along with...
Towerfall Ascension?
Actually just Towerfall, so I'm assuming it's the whole package. It's coming with Celeste as a character, and then Madeline, which I think is Dark Celeste.
Wait, real quick. This is going to be a dumb statement here. There's a Towerfall before Ascension?
So Towerfall Ascension's like the combo pack of all of it, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Treasure Stack, which looks like a weird puzzle game coming out this winter. Zarvot, which is an interesting little 3D puzzle game. Mineko's Night Market coming in 2019. Samurai Gun 2 coming early 2019. Bullet Age coming in November. The World Next Door early 2019. Level Head November. King of the Hat early 2019. King of the Hat looks really cool. It's a fighting game where you have a hat and you have to like keep your hat and crush the opponent's hat. Looks really dumb, really fun. Reminds me of
Dive Kick.
Dive Kick. Yes, Thank you.
That's exactly what I thought.
I'm just gonna let the cloud kind of hang over here because I got.
So Dive Kick was this really weird fighting game where the only thing you could do is kick, but you basically had to jump up and dive.
Yeah,
kick.
you could jump and kick. That's
it.
Only thing.
Well,
Wow.
you couldn't move or anything. I mean, your moving was jumping and kicking. So you'd be like, whoop.
But there's so many people in the fighting scene who adore that game because it is all about precision timing. Like it's about knowing your opponent and just obliterating them. Because it's one hit. So the second you land a hit, you win.
What?
So it is about jumping and dodging while attacking. It's amazing.
It's hot.
Untitled Goose Game coming early 2019. Desert Child coming in December. Wasteland 2 coming September 13th. Bastion, thank God. Bastion should be everywhere. Because it's already everywhere except for Switch.
Why is that transition not with it?
Wait a second. Coming September 13th. The Messenger coming August 30th, so it's already out. Undertale September 18th.
Undertale's a hot game.
Undertale is a hot game. I need to go back and replay it. Jackbox Party Pack 5, this is a new one. And the reason why I say this is a new one is because they made a big deal about this being a Jackbox game that had video game aspects to it.
What's so weird to me is like Jackbox infuriates me. Just as much as I hate DLC on games, I would much rather there be Jackbox and then just let me buy the new freaking like, because it's the exact same game. It's like, oh, this is like media from 2003. This is from 2006.
Correct.
You're like, I will pay you $2 just to give me that stupid trivia question. Jesus.
Transistor coming November 2018. Dragon Marked for Death December 13th. Lightfinger September 20th. Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP. Do either of you know this game?
No.
This is a mobile game that released years ago, and I adored it, but it was only out on iOS.
Super Brothers?
Super Brothers. I could not pick it up. So now that's coming to Switch, I'm very excited about it.
I'll be honest, I've only known like maybe 3 titles out of this entire list you've gone down so far.
That's good though. New titles for you. And then Into the Breach is out now, which is really exciting. Because I wanted to play Into the Breach.
Did you play FTL?
I did not play FTL. I know it's by the makers of FTL. Into the Breach is one where I could have easily accessed it on my PC, but I didn't want to play it there. I wanted to play it on the go. On the Switch, it seems like the perfect place for it.
You said it was called Super Bros.
Super Bros Sword and Sorcery EP. It's got a very pixelated graphic style. Now, a lot of these are ports. The Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP, I think this is the first time this has been on a console. It was on PC and mobile, like I said before. Some of these are new, like Dragon Marked for Death. as well as the Jackbox Party Pack 5, and then the Messenger, which had just recently come out. And then some of these are ports that I think are great because they just need to be on more platforms. Bastion, Transistor. Transistor, to me, it was so criminal how long it was only PC, PS4. And then quite a few of these, like these early 2019 games, are Switch PC exclusives. So they're not on any other console, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I definitely find it very interesting because they keep, I mean, it is a ton of ports, but it's also like they keep basically taking these bite-sized games.
Yeah.
Like FTL and Into the Breach are both games where it's like I pretty much only play them on PC, and they're filthy casual games where it's like it's easy to pick up and put down.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that makes a lot of sense on the Switch.
I agree.
Whereas like you maybe want to play it on a PC. Me, it's like, oh, I'm gonna do some like Photoshop work on PC, and I'll just Alt Tab and play FTL or whatever. Yeah. Whereas like you were like, cool, I'm on the train to work. That'd be cool. Play for 5 minutes. Sit down. I'm gonna go take a poop. Let me play for 5 minutes. Set it down.
Yeah. This handhelds in general. So mobile, Vita, Switch, whatever, for me are long excursions that I want to break into bite-sized chunks. Like not this week, but next week, Dragon Quest 11 drops on PS4, and I am super excited for that game. I will not be getting on PS4 because it's eventually coming to Switch, and when they announce that, that's where I'll play that game. Because I played Persona, which is another JRPG on Vita, 200 hours on my Vita. I played Persona 5 on my PS4. It took me 80, and it was excruciating by the end of it. I was like, I just want to beat this game. Whereas on Vita or Switch, I will eat that game up over time, no matter what. So, But it's a lot of good games. Some of them exclusive, some of them not. But enough of like the weird mix that covers a lot of the nooks and crannies the Switch doesn't have now. I think is perfect.
You know how much I want those games to go to mobile?
How much?
Very badly.
I can imagine.
Because a lot of them, like, it makes sense. Like, and that's why I think it makes sense on the Switch Frontier. Is the same thing with mobile.
Yeah.
Because, like, while the Switch is very mobile and it is very easy to transport and whatnot, like a game like FTL or Into the Breach, like, I could maybe horsepower might be a little bit of a struggle. But, like, by and large, if I could pull that on my phone, like, that's something I would totally do in the same vein where it's like, I don't really want to carry a Switch. And those games, like to me, those games are too light for the Switch. Whereas, like, the Switch is like Zelda, perfect for me on the Switch. Yeah. Even Skyrim, like you said, Diablo, like that's something that might be on the fringe for me. But like Zelda and Skyrim to me are like the best. Like I don't need to play them. I don't need to like Zelda. The story's fine. Don't get me wrong. But like there's no like I gotta know what's happening. It's like cool. I'm gonna go farm some fruit for a little bit or whatever. Yeah. And it's like you can do some cool passive stuff. Whereas like FTL, Into the Breach, like those type of games, it's like cool. Let me play for 5 minutes. All right, let me put that away.
Yeah.
Whereas like I don't know. It's just a little different. So I would like to see some of those come mobile, but I am glad that they come. It's very odd that they announced all those games without Pyre.
I do agree. I think the reason why is that Pyre probably requires a little bit more of porting for them. So if I remember correctly,
I also think the controls are a little.
No, I think it would be fine.
I think they were more complex than Bastion and Transistor.
I don't think not more complex. Well, more in the moment, yes.
Because just the little action part of the actual game itself was like a little fast.
Yeah.
And that may be a little technical, you know.
Be still my beating heart. Everything you do, Supergiant Games, just makes me happy. I do think it's interesting. Bastion has been ported to everything now that it's coming on the Switch. And Transistor is on PC, PS4. I believe it finally made its way to Xbox and mobile. Mm-hmm. So I think because they had those kind of built out in a way where they could start moving them to a different direction.
Because Pyre is just PC, PS4.
Correct. It is still an exclusive a year later, which is kind of cool.
When does Resogun get the port?
That's a good question.
Because I think Resogun would be a good one there. It's a good little arcade game. And then what's the other game they made? Next Machina.
Next Machina. You're thinking of a different studio, but yes, I agree.
I thought that was the one that made Resogun.
They are, but they're not Supergiant.
Yeah, right. I was just meaning like I think that's another good studio that would make Housemarque.
Yeah. Next Machina is one I recently thought of buying for our office, but I'll tell you that story later.
It's solid.
I don't know if I would want to play Resogun on the handheld, and the only reason why
the controls are intuitive enough.
I agree 100%. I think it'd work well, but my problem is that game works so well on you having to watch both sides of the screen.
Yep,
your thumb's gonna block one side as you move up and down.
The other thing I think that is super subtle, and I love this part about PlayStation. I think the controller speaker is one of the best parts.
I love it so much.
Where it's like. It'll just tell you, it's like, save the humans.
Save the last humans. And you're like, oh,
where's he at? Where's he at?
To get to him right now.
You're like shooting him to keep him out of a hole.
Lost. You're like, restart. I got to get it. Yeah, I agree.
It's super frustrating. On the Sony bandwagon, it seems that Amazon is still allowing some of its pre-orders from its now seemingly, I guess, sunsetted benefits.
So no, now that the benefits are over, they're allowing pre-orders for specific publishers they weren't before. So
Right, but they're still offering it. Like Cyberpunk 2077, you could still pre-order with the old bonus currently.
that's interesting.
Because I did it. Because I was like, oh, I'm going to go. And now they're going to release a special edition.
So yeah, for Prime members who are already part of Prime, you have there's another cutoff date for that, but that's separate from this issue,
Okay.
which is
I thought there was a little bit of a, like a poopo lupo.
I wish. No. Right around the time God of War came out, there seemed to be a rift between Amazon and Sony. We're not quite sure what happened. A lot of people think it had to do with the fact that Amazon probably wanted more of the cut since they give that discount, and Sony's like, get over it.
Yeah.
So you couldn't pre-order God of
Sony
War.
not being friendly? What is that?
Yeah. Well, not only that, you're making the choice to give the discount. Just
Yep.
allow the pre-order and no discount.
Yep.
You could literally advertise that Sony won't give us more money, so it's going to
Yeah.
cost you. Done. Regardless, right around God of War, you couldn't pre-order God of War. EA also had issues with various games that were not allowed to be pre-ordered.
It's
on
infuriating
Amazon.
because
Yeah.
I like to pre-order things on Amazon.
I do
Not
too.
even because the discount, just because like Amazon
Convenience.
is such a convenience.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I want this collector's edition. Cool. I'm not gonna go to the midnight release of it. I don't care
Yeah,
that much.
No, it'll be sitting instead, like on
When
my
I get off
doorstep
work, it'll be
whenever I
fine.
get off
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. So they
Kids in the
announced
neighborhood don't get crafty.
that's the end of this discount, and all of a sudden, Spider-Man's pre-orderable. All of a sudden, Battlefield 5 you can pre-order now.
The word's a mouthful. Pre-orderable.
Pre-order. So it seems like their feud was related to the discount, and it is over. I took a stance because I was so annoyed with them. I refused to buy Spider-Man on Amazon. I was like, I will go to a GameStop, and I will go out of my way. I will get in the car, spend money on gas, and spend the same amount of money in store just because I don't want you to have this money because you pissed me off.
What's weird to me is that like the Division, I don't think the collector's edition for Division are still on there. Makes no sense.
That is interesting.
And it's like, come on.
Yeah,
I'm not ordering through Ubisoft. I
Yeah.
got too much pride in that.
Just come up with a standard and message what that is. Like if you're having trouble with Sony as Amazon, all you have to do is tell me.
Obviously, everybody's throwing them under the bus. So
Sony's,
just
yeah, exactly.
join the bandwagon.
Sony's being all right,
Yeah.
cool. Then I understand now. I'll go to GameStop. Just frustrating.
Speaking of people who are these two gentlemen over here are going to say a dirty word in a minute, but that's because every single week we like to discuss the news. It's down in the description below if you would like to follow along and click it and read it yourself. We'll have all of our articles and those in which we wrote about it. But for us, that section has been
The important.
Are we going into Halo now?
We're going to hell because we're talking to handsome Jamark, discussing this display tech because we were kind of tiptoeing around it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's dive in.
So, all right. So IFA just happened. The European
IFA.
Explain to our friends.
So it's basically the European E3, basically,
Okay.
or CES.
CES, yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
more along CES.
I was about to say,
actually. Yeah,
video
that's right.
game?
Yeah, I was like, no.
A conference about video games
No,
I don't
no,
know
no.
about?
CES. No. So IFA actually just had a ton of releases because 8K tech is coming.
Boom.
And HDR10 Plus, which is a new HDR standard, has been pushed through, and suddenly we're all hitting 144 hertz with televisions and things like that. I don't care.
I don't either.
So
Have you played with a 144 hertz monitor?
I have played with a 144 hertz monitor. If it's not G-Sync, it's pointless. Or FreeSync, I guess. But I guess I keep seeing
life-changing.
that 8K is coming. First off, 8K has been coming now for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And still these 8K products, aren't going to be really readily available until next year anyway.
It's kind of like 4K was coming forever, and then it just was this year where it became affordable for people to go out and buy TVs.
So the other problem is that graphics hardware still isn't quite to the point where driving 4K is really feasible at the price that you're going to spend for a graphics card, for example, to get it.
Yeah.
Versus getting like a PS4 Pro or a
I definitely think
Xbox One X.
I don't think for the general market, I guess we're all pretty fortunate with our jobs and whatnot that we're a little bit above the general market and the general price point.
Except I still run 3 1080p monitors. I've never owned anything bigger than 1080p other than the ultra wide.
Yeah, I use I mean, the downstairs TV we have is a 4K. Then I've had a 4K, probably 2 for a good while. But my monitors have always been 1440, and I just switched to a 1440 ultra wide.
There are also lots of dogs and guns in this house. You're just telling everybody what you got here. I'm trying to protect us.
I was like, I mean, that is a valid point, but I don't.
I mean, he's not wrong, but I mean, why is this relevant?
Yeah. So I just recently switched to the 144 hertz 1 millisecond response time ultra wide, which they're still obnoxiously priced, which sucks. That is very unfortunate. But my 970 did not push it well at all, so
Exactly.
I had to switch to a 1080. But playing on that, granted, if you're willing to spend the money, which it does suck and it is expensive, but playing on that, it is very different. It is honestly painful for me to play my PlayStation, mainly Call of Duty, because Call of Duty's capped 60 is what they claim. It is probably close to 30 sometimes. But like playing Counter-Strike at 144 or playing anything at 144 and then going to PlayStation 60, like once you've played at a high frame rate, and it's like, God, this is rough.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I mean, I played on PlayStation. I played Call of Duty for like 5 years before really playing, 3 or 4 years before playing on PC. And so back then, you're like, oh, this is fine. And then as soon as you go to PC, you're like, oh, this is really good. And then you go back to the PlayStation, you're like, oh my God, I did not play this. It's like same thing with playing on like a very large format display. Like if you play games like, I don't know, do you play on a large screen?
Yeah.
So when you play on a large screen, it's super minute, and you would never notice until you play on like an actual like monitor, like a low latency monitor. But just there's a little bit of input lag on like movement, and it's something you never really notice because I used to always play on like a big screen TV, and then when I switched to like gaming monitors on a PlayStation, I was like, this is so different. And then like all the Call of Duty pros like, yeah, idiot, that's a big deal. So it's very interesting. Like I don't think 4K is going to be. It's still going to take a year or two before 4K.
Yeah.
Like I just got a PS4 Pro this year, and like we said, we're all probably above the normal consumer. And I just got you haven't upgraded or you did upgrade to it?
No,
you didn't.
I don't have a PS4 Pro.
Collins
I don't have a 4K
upgraded to it.
TV. I don't have any of that because
And that's the thing, because
the price isn't worth it. To me.
exactly for you it'd be $500 for a PS4 Pro, right? $400 or $500, and then another $400 or $500 for another TV. It's $1,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
For consoles going to be replaced next year.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, in 2 years, sure. Honestly, it is interesting. I think all of this is interesting because you're right. There is a premium consumer that is going to dive into this just like they did with 4K, Blu-ray, you name it, beta tape, like beta cassettes, whatever
Nobody
they're
used
called.
beta tape. Let's be real.
Somebody did at some
What
point.
was the HD? It was HD
HD DVD.
HD DVD, baby.
Yeah.
'cause
Versus
The
Sony-
Blu-ray.
Xbox one, yeah.
Sony and Microsoft fought over that forever. But I
It wasn't
do
a fight. That was a beating.
I do think that eventually this is going to be interesting, and the tech is interesting today. The concepts are interesting. It's just what does this mean for the marketplace?
It's gonna suck for consoles. Like right now,
No,
I think consoles can do a better job of it because, I mean, even now, like for example, the Call of Duty beta. Our roommate Kepley, he has a regular PS4, and I have the PS4 Pro, and like he couldn't choose his specialist in the beta because it wouldn't load fast enough. And I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like he literally can't choose his character because his game is not optimized.
That sounds.
And
like a
granted, the
problem.
game is obviously getting harder and harder to run, but the PS4 Pro can just load faster.
But that doesn't have anything to do with display. That has everything
That's
to
not
do
the display.
with
That's
the
the
hardware.
hardware.
On the back end,
But I think that it's part of the PS4 Pro. They're like, oh, we can push 4K pixels, and we got more technology and power, so we can do whatever here, and we'll make it work for that one.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna, especially in gaming, especially on PC, you see it more because they're like, oh, we're gonna make this work for 8K.
Yeah.
But at what expense is it gonna work on 8K?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
And what advantage does it provide? Which is the other crappy
well,
thing.
not only that, what's the cost on the developer?
100%.
Because
Yep.
doing those kinds of up-res, like just going from the high def of 1080p to 4K,
Huge.
increased the cost
4 ti-
tremendously.
I mean, just the pixel pushing is 4
Oh,
times.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. You have to come up with textures that are like resolved for 8K, then 4K, then 1080p, 1440p, basically everything in between. If you like, otherwise you're telling people to run like 8K textures for 1080p, which is completely unnecessary.
By the way, the next Call of Duty is going to be all pixels. It's just going to be like 8-bit. That way you don't have to worry about it on any resolution.
I can play it at literally 1,000 frames a second.
Yeah, as long as it's all pixels.
Fantastic.
Kind of.
Anyway, no. No. To me, so 144 hertz, 100%. Like refresh rate and things like that. Like if we're improving graphics performance to push more frames, I'm on board with that. My thing is I don't think resolution really matters all that much to me. HDR support for better color, cool.
Yeah.
Resolution, because the big thing about IFA this year was 8K, 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 8K. Like everybody between Samsung and LG and who's the other big name? LG? No, I already said LG.
Maybe Sony.
But Sony, yeah. The big name that you kept seeing come out was, we're doing an 8K display, we're doing an 8K display, we're doing an 8K display. That's great, but 4K still hasn't even caught up yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is I used to work at Best Buy for longer than I'm proud to admit. What they would always say is basically there's pixel perfect ratio. Like a 1080 resolution screen is like pixel perfect at 21.5 inches or something like that. So that means at 21.5 inches, that is the perfect size for a 1080 display.
Also depends on your viewing distance too.
Well, no, I'm saying like actual pixel pushing. It's 21.5 inches is like the perfect size for 1080 to fit, right? If it's 4K, they have to compress pixels.
Right.
So if it's 720, they have to expand pixels. But so like 21.5 is like perfect for 1080. Mm-hmm. And I want to say 4K is something like, I want to say it's like 47 or 50 flat or something like that. So then 8K, just by that same numerical logic, should be what? 80 inches?
Yeah, that's about right.
Cool. How many? Does anyone here have an 80-inch TV?
Does anybody have room for an 80-inch
exactly.
TV?
So
the other thing too is, do I want to use one as a monitor?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Exactly. That's huge. So it's like, at what point is it even an advantage? Like,
no. It's gonna be more. So, interesting side note. I used to have a 32-inch television that I used to play on for PC, and I'd be playing Battlefield 2, and I'd be like.
Well, that's what kills me is like when I would use either I think that TV is like a 50 or 55 inch, but I got that TV like a good while ago, and I played what was it, Battlefront, the new Battlefront.
Battlefront 2.
Yeah. Is it
the new Battlefront?
I think it's the new Battlefront.
The newest Battlefront is Battlefront 2.
No, I'm thinking the new Battlefront,
So, like,
the single one.
Just the first one.
Remember,
like
because
3 years ago.
they did 2 Battlefronts and 2 Battlefront 2s.
Yeah.
The old gen and the new gen.
I'm just trying to
Whatever the one was, like
Battlefront's
3 or
new
4
gen.
years ago.
Yeah.
The first new gen Battlefront.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I
there
tried
you
to
go.
play that on PC on my 4K monitor. I was like, oh, that supports 4K. Let me do that. And, like, it is nauseating because it's just massive and it's, like, unnecessary and it's just big.
Yep.
So it's like I can't, while having the 4K pixels and clarity, that's awesome. And it looked gorgeous. But, like, I needed to sit from, like, at least, like, further than me to the camera by, like, a good margin to be able to see and, like, appreciate this.
Yeah.
It's like my monitors now are 2K and they're the size for 2K, so like it makes sense. But if they were 4K, like it would hurt to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Like those things just don't like. There's a point when it is too clear and it hurts to look at, and it's also harder to run because like if you're trying to shove 8K pixels into a 27-inch monitor or whatever, like you have to downsample that
4K
a ton.
pixels into a 6-inch screen.
Exactly, and that's really hard to run to downsample.
Yeah.
So you're just pushing everything unnecessarily, and it's like. Can we just lower costs? How about that?
Yeah.
Can we get cheap 4K? I don't care about 8K.
Yeah,
How about
exactly.
cheap 4K?
Let's sit on 4. How long do we sit on 1080p before 4K even really became a thing?
If I wouldn't have worked at Best Buy, I would have probably never have, I guess, come to appreciate like 144p or 480 or 720 and that stuff. I wish that I wouldn't have, because then I'd just been like, oh, there was TV and then there was 1080.
Yep.
I do think this is interesting, and to your point earlier, we were discussing the consoles. I don't think this is going to hurt consoles because I don't think 8K is going to catch up fast enough.
How many? What's the ratio of PS4 Pros to PS4s?
I mean, PS4, but that's a good
I'm saying-
benefit for the manufacturer as
I don't
well.
disagree with that, but I'm saying like, what is it? Maybe 1/5?
Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So cool. 1/5 of your audience has the ability to use a 4K monitor to get that.
So I'm gonna call it and say maybe like the later generation of the PlayStation 6 will probably have like 8K support.
Yeah. I
If
think,
there's a PlayStation 6.
I mean, unless they really tank hard on 5, I don't see why there wouldn't be.
No, they'll rebrand it. It'll be PlayStation Forever.
There you go.
Or back to
They
1
could've done
or
that this
PlayStation
time
Infinite.
around
Yeah.
Forever. I
That'd
think
have been a good
that
one. That would have been a good
look at
one.
that.
I think the tech is interesting again, but I do think the costs don't make sense in any spectrum, like for consumer use. Like even PC gaming, like there's very few people in the world who be like, let me get these 8K monitors.
It is only going to be Linus's tech tips when he's like, let me hook 12 monitors together to play
Yeah, exactly.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm glad you can do that.
Yeah.
That's great, except you have to run them all 1080p. You can't run 4K.
I'm more interested when it comes to display tech as what we were talking about earlier when it comes to like how we're going to utilize phones as either wrappable or
We
wearables.
don't even need AR. Why are we even worried about looking at screens anymore? Just implant a chip in mine. Let me be able to see cool stuff.
The iPhone from Futurama.
Ah.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, I think that stuff's far more interesting than the next K, whatever, 12K.
Instead of
24K.
8K or any of this other hoopla, I'd be much just happier if we could just figure out a way to map a cool screen on a building. Like I feel like that's only in New York City or Hong Kong or whatever. Like we live in a really big city by perspective.
Yeah.
And how many screens do we have on buildings? The newest building we just made has like a 3-foot by 6-foot video board.
What?
And it's tiny. And it's like
See, you should see Miami. There's one in particular. Actually, I don't even know if it's a projection. Come to think of it, it might be. But regardless, it's like this giant thing of a woman dancing on the side of a building or whatever, and they do it.
says
regularly.
live news across the top or something.
Whoa, what are we going here?
Different part of town.
There's red lights there.
It just seems so mundane.
And unnecessary.
Unnecessary is a good one, but I definitely feel like there's cool things behind all of this, and I understand it, but I am far from I wasn't excited for 4K, let alone like the next step above it.
I had a buddy of mine back in Florida who bought one of the first 4K televisions he could get his hands on.
Poor guy.
He spent probably every bit of 6 G's on it. It
Hurts
was like
me on the inside to think about.
it was like 56 inches.
It's a running theme for this episode.
56 inches. It was supposed to have like 3D support, which is not good. It was
3D, that's right.
that was the other thing. Yeah, 3D actually 3D's gone now, from what I understand, just because you can't get the same experiences at theater. But
Just
No.
AR, come on.
see, actually, I would really want to see us go to like a VR virtual display tech.
I mean, that'd be neat. What would be, I don't understand why it doesn't really exist, is if they made AR movies, that would be freaking terrifying.
That would be terrifying, I agree.
Like, imagine, what is the Disney, I've never been to Disney World, so I have no idea. What is the Disney ride where you, like, ride through the nighttime and you shoot stuff? It's like in a building you go through on a roller coaster.
The only thing I can think
It's
of
like
is
an
like some Buzz Lightyear thing.
It's like an interactive thing. You gotta know what
It's
I'm talking
really
about.
fun to watch you.
You gotta know what I'm talking about.
I don't know of one where you shoot things now.
Is in there one like you ride along and it's like a stuff? It's like a story type thing.
It's a
There's
stuff.
a couple of them. There's one in Epcot.
Sure. So imagine that, but instead you're just going along and you're wearing like AR glasses and it's like interactive and everywhere and like that'd be cool.
I want
You just like to watch me burn.
the wraparound smartwatch that's all a display that you could take off and put on as an eye patch.
I was hoping you were gonna say the wraparound display and then you could have Obi-Wan like on little.
That'd be cool too, but I like the eye patch idea better. That could be your AR.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Just look through it.
Here for you, buddy.
I know.
Are we
That's
done
the hard
talking about
part.
Displays? We put them in the ground.
The eye patch put it in the ground. No, but I think I think you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, I'm good with it. Basically, I don't give a crap.
I want to see it. I'm gonna touch it and smell it.
I am curious of your opinions, though, so please leave some comments down below, and we would love to. They're up here.
And if you would be willing to buy an 8K monitor, you should instead not and just buy something cool.
like this podcast.
Wait,
Bu-
like buy the whole
us,
podcast?
buy us something cool like this podcast.
Correct. Buy us something cool like this. No, buy something cool like this podcast. Doesn't matter. We're gonna move on to my topic because I'm taking control. I'm taking the reins back of this outlandishness.
Shocker, he's butting in.
I would like to talk about game pricing, and I'm going to use a wonderful example in the game Shovel Knight. So Shovel Knight came out in 2013. Sounds right. 2013, 2014.
All right.
I don't know why.
That's right.
Every time you say Shovel Knight, I can't help but think of M. Night Shyamalan.
That's weird.
I mean, he was the writer for that game, so it
just-
makes perfect sense.
Don't listen to him. He's a liar.
So Shovel Knight was a Kickstarter game that reached epic proportions. They made lots of money. They
Second
actually-
biggest Kickstarter game ever. Right?
I believe that is the case. It was one of the first big ones for sure.
Star Citizen.
They had to go through a bunch of the tiers that they agreed to, which included making ports for 3DS and Vita, making 3 new expansions for the campaign along with the core game. So the game came out $15. If you bought it on Wii U, you got it on 3DS as well. If you bought it on PlayStation 3, 4, or Vita, you got it on all three platforms.
Yep.
And then Xbox Womp Womp, just on the Xbox One. Is it on PC? I assume
It
it's
is,
on
it is,
PC.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and on PC, just
I
on
think
PC.
it's $15.
Yeah. So $15 original price. Fast forward to a couple of years, specifically 2017, they have released 2 of the expansions. Talking about the third, they've decided to rebrand the original game. So it's no longer just Shovel Knight. It is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which incorporates the original campaign, Shovel Knight, a Shovel for Hope or something. It was really corny. It was great. And then you get the 2 expansions as well, plus any new expansions going forward.
Yep.
So from $15 to $25. Or you could buy the expansions separately for $10 a piece.
Okay.
Cool enough. Fast forward again to 2018, and they have announced that they're going to be releasing a brand new fighting mode. It's like a fighting game, 4-player, taking on each other. Has a specific name. And then the King's Knight, which is the last of the campaigns they all agreed to, into one package as well, raising the price again. So the game will now cost $40 as of April 9th, 2019. If you buy it beforehand, if you go out today and spend $25, you get Shovel Knight, all 3 expansions plus the battle mode. Unless you get on Vita and 3DS, you don't get the battle mode on those. But I find this...
Vita can't handle it.
I think it's more about not wanting to support a dying platform.
Yeah, and there's only 2 people who would ever connect, you and John.
You're right. We would get all the trophies. I think it's just interesting to watch this developer who has done nothing but work on this game. I think it took them 4 years after their Kickstarter. They released the game in 2013, so arguably nearly 10 years, if not more, on this game. And they're just raising the price, and people are willing to pay it. And I think this is fascinating, interesting, and I want to hear your thoughts on game pricing. Is this something that more people should do? Is this like a one-hit wonder? Do you think other people get away with it?
I think that the thing that I always think about when I think of game pricing is I super like Humble Bundle.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know what Humble Bundle is, basically Humble Bundle is a service where they, I assume, buy bulk from the publishers.
They have to.
And then the publisher is basically like, cool, we're going to give you 10,000 copies at this price if you sell this much. So depending on how many they sell and depending on what price tier you buy it at, they used to fluctuate a lot. Now it's pretty set of like, hey, if you pay $15, you get all this stuff.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it used to be like, hey, if you pay $10, you get all this stuff, and you can lower the price for everyone else.
Yep.
If you pay $2, you can get the cheap package, but you're going to slowly increase the price for everyone else. So if everyone gets a $2 package, it winds up costing like $20 to get everything. Whereas everyone buys the $10 package, and it winds up only costing like $5 for everybody to get everything. They usually have it in tiers.
Well, and some of the proceeds also go to charity there.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
They do a lot of great causes as well. I've always really liked that kind of strategy because if it's something like Call of Duty is never going to be a good example, but if it's something like Shovel Knight, and say like that game took a lot to make. Granted, they kickstarted, so they used Kickstarter, so they did have the initial investment capital, whatever. But let's take something like Stardew Valley. If Stardew Valley were to come out and the guy's like the one guy that developed it's like, hey, this took 5 years, I'm going to start charging it at $30. However, if I sell 10,000 units, I'm going to take it down to 28. If I sell 25,000 units, I'm going to make it 25, and then just wind up, taking it down like $15.
Mm-hmm.
That means he's able to recoup his money, and then if it's like, hey, I really want to support this guy, I'm going to buy it day one. I'm cool with max price.
Yeah.
I'm good with this. Whereas, like, maybe a year in, some guy's like, it wasn't really worth $30 for me, but at $15, I'll totally do it. It's obviously already done well. You're going to have those people support it, and then the person and developers or whatever, they get their money back, but you sort of like let the audience almost dictate. Because I feel like right now we're in a huge trap of $60 games. It's like $60 or bust, which kind of sucks. And like there are totally games out there that like I'm willing to pay $60 for, and I don't want it to sound like I don't want to pay $60 for games. But there are other games out there where it's like this should not be $60. This should maybe be $30.
Yeah. Well, I always one of the go-tos when it comes to game pricing I always point to is The Witness. And The Witness was an indie game made by Jonathan Blow? Yeah.
Jonathan Blow.
And that game came out at $40. And when that was literally made news headlines. They were like, why would you charge $40? People are like blowing up about it. Then they played the game and they're like, oh shit, this is like an 80-hour game. Like, $40 is well worth that investment. And I'm with you. I hate the $60 price point. I abhor it, not because I can't afford it. I just spent $60 on Spider-Man literally yesterday. Yeah, it's that it locks it in. Spider-Man's a 20-hour game with some side quests and stuff, and a lot of people went into that. Does it really need to be at 60? Should it probably be at 50? Maybe. I mean, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, Witcher, when it came out, probably should have been $100 game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's another
Oh,
thing that I think is, it's very odd to think about, but, and I guess this is somewhat of like, I guess, a mentality concept as I've gotten older, but like tipping at restaurants. Like when you're a kid and you're broke or whatever, you're like, I'm going to tip you like the 10% because that's what I got.
Yeah.
Whereas like now the world, it's like, oh, that person was really good. I may tip like 30, 40% or whatever. Whereas like when I buy a video game, like if it's something like Stardew Valley, it's $20. Whereas like I know that dude poured his heart and soul into it. And some of these people do have the ability to set up to donate to them and whatnot. But like if there was an ability for me to like in Twitch right now, you can gift subs for people. So it's like it's $5 a month for me to sub to say Mark streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can do now is I could buy 5 extra subs, and then you get a free one, and Kepley gets a free one, and John gets a free one, and all these other people get a free one. And it's a way for me to really support Mark, and it just gives free versions out, basically, right? Whereas, like, if it came to game development, like, I would totally pay $50 for Stardew Valley if the extra $30 could either maybe give someone a free copy or just go to the developer.
Yeah.
And I think it's weird that we, like you said, like The Witcher, the game's worth $100.
Yeah.
You get $100 worth of content easily.
Yeah.
So like I would pay $100 for it, and I think a lot of people pay $100 for it. Not that everyone should have to pay $100 for it. But like maybe there should be like a developer bonus or like a tip system for like, hey, on Steam, like I'll pay an extra $5, $10, $20, whatever, and sure, some of it can go to charity, however you want to do the semantics of it or whatever. But like I would like there's especially a lot of indie games because I buy a lot of indie games. Like I just played a game called Graveyard Keeper, which is very similar to Stardew Valley, and you just keep a graveyard, and it's like. Cool. The game was like I think $15 or $20, but like it's another game where it's like I'm gonna get 30, 40 hours out of it. I'm gonna play that. You'll probably play Spider-Man more because you're gonna do everything, but I would play that more than I would play Spider-Man for the same campaign, and it's half the price.
Yeah,
I would totally pay the same price for both of those games.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that, and I think that AAA games get the stigma of we're gonna be $60 when maybe we shouldn't. Like I think Knack did a really good job of it. I think Spyro is only gonna be 40 or 50.
I can't remember. I know that. Crash was only 40.
Crash was only 40.
And then Ratchet and Clank, the newest one, was only 40. Like,
Yep.
I hate the stigma of it being a budget game because it's not 60. I'm like, no, that game was phenomenal.
It's still a AAA title. It's just $40.
And I mean, let's be real. Like, if I love Call of Duty, why is it $60?
Yeah.
Especially this one, you're getting multiplayer.
Yeah.
If this Call of Duty won, and it pains me so much, like, if you are a marketing team, like imagine if Activision this year is like, hey, we're cutting out the campaign, we're gonna knock $10 off. It's only gonna be $50 this year.
That's all you need to do.
And I'm confident everyone in the media will be like, this is revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, God, Activision, just hire me as your marketing person. It's easy. It's really that easy.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. I'm on the same boat anyway. But the thing is that a lot of the value that you see in it is up to you. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, for me, I've never played Graveyard Keeper, but, I mean, it does sound like a moderately interesting game, but, like me, I'm willing to shovel tons of money into, for example, my flight simulator versus that.
Buy a new plane or whatever.
But you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I'm willing to shovel $80 into a single component, but you wouldn't. Like, if it was maybe even $10, nah, still not. But the thing is that it's entirely up to the individual. So a donation system would be better there, but I guess saying that this is the blanket price for the game, especially if you're overcharging for it, something like
Graveyard Keeper.
Graveyard Keeper. Okay, I don't know. I wanted to say Graveyard Simulator, but Graveyard Keeper.
Basically, Graveyard Keeper.
Anyway, if they charge $60 for it because to you it's worth $60, you're going to buy it. But the problem is that means they're going to lose out on everybody else.
Right, and that's why I think the old Humble Bundle logic could be awesome for games. And it's obviously not going to really work for AAA games like your Call of Duties and your big stuff like that. But especially on a platform like Steam or Humble Bundle, they do it phenomenally now. Of like, hey, this game, like Shovel Knight, if the game comes out at $40 because you didn't give the Kickstarter initial backing or whatever, by now they've already got a ton of money. Mm-hmm. They could easily, because me and you and a ton of other people already spent $40. When Mark goes to buy it, it's only $15.
Yeah,
because they've already sold 1 million copies, and like that to make it make sense. Because like me and one of my buddies, Brandon, we were wanting to play the Call of Duty Zombie Saga because it's like, oh, the new Call of Duty's coming out. Let's go back and we're gonna go back and beat all the old zombies, right? On PC, it is still $60 for Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's 4 years old.
It's some of my biggest frustrations on PSN too, where I'll go back and look at a game like, oh, this should be really easy. Like a couple years back, our house got burgled, and I'm like, I just want to pick this up. Yeah,
that's such a weird word. Burgled.
That's the right way to say it, though.
I don't disagree with that.
I've used that word twice this week, and you were the second person who was like, that's just really weird. I've never heard that term before. I'm like, okay. But we were burgled. and we lost. Like I lost my collection of PS4 games, so I went back on PSN. And I'm like, okay, well I'll pick it up for cheap. They're still charging $30-$40 for certain games. I'm like, why?
There was a Call of Duty tournament this week for Call of Duty Ghosts, which is the launch Call of Duty for PlayStation 4.
Yep.
And it is still $60 digital. And it's like all of these, because there's like pros were talking complaining about it. You're gonna make them go to GameStop and spend $4.
Yep.
Or $60 digital.
I think there's a difference though. Like Activision, I guess, as far as Call of Duties. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still a decent amount of hype for even some of the old Call of Duties for people who play them, but. I think that's just Activision getting a little, Activision.
How much is it? How much is Skyrim still on Steam?
I'd have to.
It's got to be $30 minimum.
Yeah.
And they've re-released that thing 24 times.
I'm gonna look this up. I do think it's also about. I mean, we're talking about big publishers. They do make certain, decisions based off of whatever risk they're doing. So like Titanfall 2 came out. Went down. EA did not make their money back on that, but Battlefield 1 came out that same year, and they were able to kind of float between the two to make sure their profits were good.
While you're looking at that, so we can kind of compare this,
$40.
Look up the price for Halo 5.
Microsoft
Halo 4. Sorry.
Microsoft's doing a great job with their backwards compatibility and their Game Pass, allowing that kind of like you pay $10, you're able to kind of dive into these games, but that's completing a different type of marketplace. I do wish there was some system set up, at least for gifting on PSN, because there are countless times now where I have gone to all my friends who I'm like, you all own a Vita, this Bastion's on sale for $4. Go buy the game. I will give you $4. Overall, I spend $20, but this gets them sales. This gets them units sold. Like it's on Vita, so it's showing that it's there.
Like Steam does, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know a console that does that. Steam does it, but I would love that gifting technique of, hey, here you go. I bought this for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, because I'll buy full price games for people if I think it's worthwhile for them. I mean, that's not only me supporting the developer, but
that's how I got the Division actually.
Yeah.
So, somebody else, or my buddy Travis anyway. He said, "Hey, I really want to play this game. This looks really good." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Whatever. Maybe I'll play it. I don't know." He's like, "I bought you one." I was like, I guess I gotta play it.
I guess I gotta play it now. But I think that there are other. It seems like quality of life, but it's not quality of life. It's economics. If you fix these systems in your store, if you set up a way in which, hey, there is a way to tip a developer, hey, or a publisher, like I really like these games, this goes to you. Like
Devolver Digital would get too much money from me.
I'm sure they would.
But they just make so much great stuff.
They do,
and it's cool because like I'll gladly give it to you because it's like, hey, you keep helping these studios publish things that I obviously want to play.
It would almost like it become the next Star Citizen for him.
Oh,
let's not talk about that.
Steven, if you're still watching, I did want to mention this. My friend Pedro, have you seen this?
No.
Okay, have you seen this?
No.
It's a Devolver Digital game. Look it up.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't know. I thought you were talking about Star Citizen related. I was like,
no,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll have to look it up later.
It's fine. It's okay.
Honestly, I'm really impressed from looking this up. Halo 4, pretty much all of the Halos are $20.
That one's gonna slide by. So, all Halos
individually, which it actually.
So going back to one, like Combat Evolved is $20 because
Combat Evolved should be like $10.
This is digital
max.
So you get these all with Game Pass as well.
Yeah. See, that's where I think
that's the other part of it too.
Yeah, I think Microsoft's really doing themselves a service by creating this games as a service or service for games. I don't know
that you can. Oh, you can still buy.
Where you can like even the Master Chief Collection is now on there, starting in September. And if anyone had paid attention,
you can finally get a game 4 years later. You can finally actually get into a lobby.
But I think they're trying to find another way to create revenue streams and allow people to kind of play around with it, but not in the way we're talking when it comes to pricing. But I do think that the old model's gone. Like it's dumb. It's falling apart. We're noticing it when it comes to DLC, and
it's
then
just
they're having to pay for.
It's just the bigger AAA companies that won't let it go.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. Actually, I'll say specifically it's Activision that won't let it go.
Activision and EA, I would argue.
Yeah.
It was a good bit, honestly.
I'll agree with that.
But you were talking about your flight sims, and it made me think of there are some free-to-play games that I do think get it right. And World of Tanks and World of Ships, they're great examples of
Original
how...
Halo, $20.
What is it?
Original Halo, $20.
Wow. You said Halo 4 is on the list for $20 too, right?
Yes, they're both $20. $19.99. Master's Chief Collection is $23.99. $4 more,
what?
get all of them.
No,
whatever
not
sucker
not
buys them
just
all individually. deserves it.
not just getting all of them. You're getting
Remastered.
remastered versions of all of them.
Versions of all of them.
What?
But
That hurts.
But World of Ships, World of Tanks, they do a very good job in that market space, similar to like something like Warframe. You are able to dive in and go, well, I really like this developer, so here we go. Or even we talk about Overwatch a lot, but Overwatch is another one where you did pay the $60 or the $20 now, whatever it is. But if you really like Overwatch, then go buy some skins. Go do some things in there. I think that there are revenue streams that can lower the overall price but allow people who thoroughly enjoy the game to throw more money at it, and I think that can help everyone.
A League actually would be one of the perfect examples for that
Yes.
too. I'll fall in line with that. Purchasing skins
Weekend of Legends.
purely because you want to say, I enjoy playing this game, and this is how I show that I enjoy
Yep.
playing this game, and this is how I support the game too.
That's awesome.
And I greatly enjoy things like that, and I also wish that, like, I know this is going to sound super weird, and, like, League of Legends really doesn't need any more money. But, like, just imagine if you had the ability to donate, like, people could put, like, a tip jar towards champions. It's like, hey, everyone puts tips to this champion, and we're going to make a skin for it because, obviously, you guys want that.
That would be cool.
Easy,
That
your
would be really
community
neat,
could
yeah.
do it. And then, you know what? You're going to get even more money because then people are going to be fighting over which one's going to get it next.
Absolutely.
Better
So-
yet, if only one of them wins, you just keep the tip jars from the other ones.
We don't know what happened. So,
Where did it go?
video game industry, listen to us. Change your pricing models, for the love of God. Shovel Knight, I think, is a wonderful example of a studio that has found its niche, it's found its growth potential, and is like, hey, we're going to make money off of this. And they are. It's like, they are very successful with that game. I cannot wait to see whatever their next game is, for sure.
Yep. And I'll add one more note to the big companies there. You have the ability to do tons of market research.
Yeah.
You can see how much your game is actually worth based on what everybody else says about it.
Correct.
IGN can probably tell you. Trust me.
Yeah,
Like-
that is correct. I actually heard a story. This is a quick tangent. Recently, about how right after Resident Evil 6, Capcom actually went to IGN to discuss like what do we do wrong, because we're doing something
That's
wrong.
awesome.
They
Yeah.
went and sat down with like a specific group of individuals there, and they were like, well, Resident Evil's not Resident Evil anymore, and you're missing out on these titles. And here we have Capcom's coming out swinging with 7, then the remake of 2, the remake of 1. Onimusha's coming back out. Like, they're really getting
Cockroach
back.
Simulator.
What?
Cockroach Simulator.
Cockroach Simulator 2019. They're really getting back into their niche, and so I think that proves that if you listen to some people who know what they're talking about, you can have a redemption story.
Yeah.
Underdog swing.
I hate it so much. The game that we are playing recently is made by Hi-Rez, and they basically, no offense to Hi-Rez, I do know some of the developers there, and they're great people, but the way in which they decide to do patches and updates is just, in my opinion, idiotic. Like, the community will be like, hey, don't do this. You gave this us to a test server, and we all say it sucks. And the community will 100% in unison be like, hey, this sucks. And I'm like, we like it. Launch. And then, you lose 90% of your player base. That's weird. It's like, all you had to do was listen. These people told you they were going to quit playing.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you. And
Wait. Was that the whole like change for the chicken thing, the golden chicken thing?
Well, it's basically dead now. The game is pretty much dead.
No, I know that.
Because they did that and they lost like 60% of player base. Now they're removing class. Yeah, now they're removing classes completely.
What?
Which it's supposed to be a class-based BR. Is the whole pitch of the game.
Yeah, that's the selling point.
They're also removing all forges.
why? That was like the cool ass. I don't know. You played the game. I saw you play it. I was like, that's really cool. That's different.
The shards are now pointless in the game. You don't need the money for kills or scrapping things.
That was what I meant by the golden chicken things. Like you
Yeah.
get kills because you didn't need golden chickens to be able to forge, your class weapon.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh.
It's weird. And it's one of those things where it's like, your community the whole time, you're like, hey guys, you shouldn't do this. Everyone's going to quit. And they're like, nah.
In the true form of BR, since, Hi-Rez was one of the next ones to sort of come out with one. Any other game studio, if you want to come out with a BR with a class system and sort of fill this gap, I'm on board. I'll help you.
You'll find success. So I think we're done. Hit the nail in the coffin on game pricing. But there are still cool ideas that we can discuss involving games. So Mr. Dylan over there, why don't you hit us off?
I just wanted to kind of introduce something interesting. I pulled up the article a second ago, which is what I was trying to figure out. And it's very unique takes on games, which I find something very fascinating. And the one in particular is, you can pronounce the name obviously better than me, Cory Barlog.
Cory Barlog.
Cory Barlog.
The creative director of God of War 2018.
Great. And he was discussing a hero that seemingly their movies and games suck consistently. And that is Super Duper Man. And Superman. And his exact suggestion here was 2 ideas for Superman, which is basically a God of War style with an older Superman attempting to raise his son. And then the second idea was taking heavy inspiration from Smallville, and Barlog described it as a Persona style, which I know is something very near and dear to Brent's heart, which is one of the biggest reasons why I kind of instant thought about this. And I just find it very interesting because there's so many, like, I think, for lack of a better term, we're all pretty creative.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Brent, you've dabbled in the concept of creating games and whatnot, and kind of the thought process.
What is a video game?
Exactly. So it's very odd to me that we don't see these, I guess, random, crazy, even odd or seemingly misplaced ideas in gaming. Like one that, like something as simple as like Pokemon. If you just presented Pokemon to a pack of 8-year-olds and it was like, hey, give me 10 different types of ways you'd want to play Pokemon, they could give you the craziest, coolest stuff.
I agree.
Whereas instead, we're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make the same thing as we did in Gold back in the day, but now we got new Pokemon.
Because being adults sucks, and, all your creativity goes out the window.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think it's because they have $59 billion worth of revenue, $10 billion comes from games.
That's fair.
Why
Obviously,
change when you don't have to?
But so kind of what I want to bring up is with those ideas and whatnot, if you could do something completely like off the rocker for any franchise, it can be an existing game franchise, it can be an existing movie franchise, it can be any existing franchise, how would you want to transition it either in real life gaming like board games or AR or any of that stuff, or like video gaming like more than normal style, like the Superman idea? I think the Superman idea, no offense, Brent, I think Persona's a dumb game. Like, it's a game I would never play. I think the concept is like, it's very neat, but it's like one of those things where it's like, there is no application where it's like, I'm like, I want to play as a high schooler and, go kill stuff. Yeah, that sounds cool. Whereas, like, if you told me I can play as, go ahead.
Have you actually tried to play as a high schooler and kill stuff?
I have not.
Because I've done it in real life. It's wonderful.
Wow. Columbine graduate, 2002. But, I'm very sorry for that.
I'm glad you apologized.
But for example, like the Superman Smallville concept, where he is basically a high schooler trying to, save the world and also, be a high schooler and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you might get me there. That sounds very interesting.
I want to touch on one thing, which is I think the reason why you see some of these pitches thrown out and not necessarily grabbed upon is because there are large corporations that are trying to stay afloat, so they are very afraid of too much change.
Why would we risk it for the biscuit?
Exactly. And B, not every good concept on paper turns into a good game. Trust me.
Yeah.
Just from the little prototypes I made, I'm like, I wanted to come up, here's a great idea. Doesn't work. I wanted to do a game on mobile in which your tilt would work. So you had a little knight, and the character would run around. You tilt the game left and right, up, down for controls, Zelda style, like old school 2D Zelda. And then when you came across an enemy, you would rev them like a top. And they would spin, and your goal would be to move in like a top to hit the enemy and their weaknesses and spin. Sounds interesting on paper. Execution's terrible. We couldn't get it to work. And granted, we're college kids working on a final, so that could have been part of it. But overall, that concept just didn't match what we were looking for in a game. So we scrapped it and went with a more traditional game.
By the same token, I think you're looking at a very specific mechanic. You were trying to make the core mechanic of the game,
Correct.
too,
But that was also the identity of that game idea.
Right.
So it just didn't work. And that happens more often than not because it's easy to throw out ideas. It's hard to execute them right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see the big company thing being
I think that's a more
big
prominent
issue.
factor.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we work in tech. How many large changes? All three of us actually work in tech. How many big, groundbreaking changes do you see being implemented? For the large companies that we work for
Every day. was a
every
joke.
single day. But on the notion of if you could, I guess, air quotes, revolutionize, one genre, game, concept, industry thing, what would you choose?
This is a tough one.
Because you could essentially, for example, like the two Superman ideas are great, and it's those things where it's like you wouldn't normally like. I would never go there. If I had to, I would go Max Landis, Max Landis, Superman, American Alien, like a mortal Superman, like almost like obviously a more ballin' version of Uncharted Drake, but like still pretty mortal, pretty normal, still super.
Yeah,
but
this is
beatable.
This is different than what I had listened to earlier, which was Game Over Greggy's pitch about essentially adapting Last Son of Krypton into a game and making it almost Arkham-esque.
Yeah.
I was like, that totally sounded dope. I'd be down with that. How you make that work? Who knows?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think when it comes to my aspect of like wanting to make a game or do something is typically finding a way to find something that I enjoy and like screw with it. So it's a concept I've been working on for a while and may never come to fruition, or it may. I want to do.
You heard it here first.
I want to do a procedurally generated JRPG in which the dungeons are procedurally generated. Your character starts anew. Over time, you equip weapons, and you would gain those abilities by fighting with the weapon and then using the ability. So you'd fill out a meter every time you used it, gain experience. So when you died, you had that ability, but you would lose all your gear, your loot. And the concept is that you're dying, but in reality, the game is resetting. So it's like the player reset you. So it's a super meta narrative.
Interesting.
But it's played on your phone.
Yeah.
Like me not being a mobile gamer, I want something like that can be shallow but deep at the same time.
TM Strange Conversations.
There you go. Because I see a lot of rehashes of old concepts of people who are just like me or us who are passionate about games. They're like, I love JRPGs growing up. I'm going to make a typical JRPG, and it becomes vanilla. Or these companies that are known for it, like Square Enix, making ports of their old games, which are fine. They're fun, but they use it widescreen, and they use your finger to move, and that drives you up the wall for one. When you can do it like this and then swipe left and right, because it's all grid-based movement. It's already there. Just do it this way.
Yeah.
But I digress. So there's a simple pitch of mine.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Are we talking about just sort of narrowing down to storylines here? Because I don't know.
It doesn't even have to be a tangential storyline. It can just be a revamp of a game or like maybe a different genre direction you want to take it. It could be as simple as a MOBA Pokemon or.
Nah. Well, see, actually, I was thinking more of the line of sort of stepping into different tech. So if you like, for example, AR.
Yeah.
AR, I think would be a fantastic implementation. For example, Battlefield. No, this was the first thing that popped into mind. Is like having parks, essentially dedicated parks for specific games. Like EA could own a park essentially and have an AR Battlefield basically that you would have spread out across the place.
That's cool.
Did you ever see the old Google Glass Battlefield 4 or whatever it was trailer? There's it's totally fake or whatever, but it's like basically they have this thing set up in where it's like the dude puts on his stuff, right, and he goes out and he like calls in his buddies like, hey man, we playing, right? And it's like he gets in this crazy awesome AR looking fight, and it's like hyper real. And then it's like he stands on top of this thing at the end of it, and it's like the whole horizon's like blown up and melted, and he just takes his stuff off and it's normal.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's super cool.
That'd be really cool. But like, I guess my thought process here is like expand games outside the game itself.
Yep.
Basically, what really inspired it for me was the VR park that we had read about out in, I guess, Las Vegas or something like that. I thought that would be a really cool idea. It's a VR park. You've got a VR headset on, but do AR.
Yeah.
Make it so that, you have these little accent features and things like that you can interact with, but the idea is it's augmented, so it actually is like sort of overlaying the reality of
Absolutely. That'd
it.
be cool.
But like outdoors and things like that. I actually have buildings you can go into. Of course, the whole collapsible building thing might be a little, dangerous, but
I think you could really get away with that when you're talking about the fantastical. Like, I know you're talking about Battlefield, but I mean, take it into Halo.
Call of Duty, Halo,
Like,
even.
I think something that's off this planet, out of this world, is super fascinating.
Now, you can only really do this, I guess, for first person, or you'd have to adapt third person games to be first person for this. But like
Fable, that would be totally killer. That would be totally cool. A great way to bring it in.
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid. Oh man,
sneaking around, putting a box.
You
in
get
there.
caught.
I think it can be done even to like a cooler extent. Like we think about, like we just had the international, and just on your concept here, the international, the way they did something really cool this year is for the champion draft. They were all AR on the screen when you watch it from home. They put like 3D crazy cool holograms in front. So it's like if you draft this champion, there's a 3D hologram like on the stage in front of me. That's the champion
That's
I
awesome.
am. And I was like, that's super cool. Now just imagine how really awesome it'd be if you just went to like, it could be like UNC Charlotte, which is a college around here. We can go to that football stadium on like a Tuesday or whatever, right? And it's like the Pokemon Go World Championship.
Yeah.
And you only see it through your phone.
Yeah.
So like there's literally nothing there. It is an empty stadium. Maybe the scoreboard's on, whatever. But when you hold your phone up, you just see Brent down there and his Charizard and Eevee collection just wrecking kids, right?
See, the only thing I can think of whenever we're talking about this, though, is silent raves. Just, walking in as the guy who doesn't have headphones on and watching a bunch of people with headphones on, listening to radio, going, dancing around, that kind of thing, and there's like no music playing.
Yeah.
I do like the AR concept a lot because I think that's a space that is just starting to really be dabbled with.
Right.
And in the most minuscule manner, like actually dabbling into it for sure.
Yeah.
I really, really back when Vita was thriving more than it is now, and Arkham City had just come out, I really wanted them to release a game for both console and handheld that had an intersecting storyline. So you'd have to have some really crafty writers in which if you only played one or the other, you wouldn't miss out on too much or miss out on anything. But it was Batman and Robin, and the console game was you playing as Batman trying to find Robin because he had been kidnapped by Black Mask. And the handheld game is you as Robin breaking out and escaping. And then the whole thing being orchestrated by Hush at the end. Like, it was this interlaced storyline going back and forth between the two games. And I do think that with this being in our pocket constantly, that can still happen where you can create something that complements an experience we have. Like, we have the new Spider-Man coming out, but there are other characters in the Spider-Man universe where this could be interesting. They made a Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, which is like a 2D Metroidvania Batman game for 3DS and Vita. Like, you could even do that and still be like, hey, and we got the Justice League game coming out from Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Like, some sort of interconnectivity that feels like whole experiences alone and then together feels like a different type of experience because we don't see that kind of interplay. It's always, here's a skin, like, or here's like a bonus level that's some bullshit. Like, it's something real, integral to each other, but not so integral that you can't have one without the other.
Okay.
For me, the one they kind of want to bring up, the one that I really wanted to bring up is that my concept of something I think's never been done. And it could be done with a lot of different games and a lot of different books and novels and genres or whatever. But for me, like Harry Potter, I think what they did with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the time framing is cool. There's a weird cricket. Okay, that was a weird noise. I think that time frame is really cool. However, I think if you go 500 years back,
oh yeah, 100%.
If we go to like maybe like 1400, when like the first wizards are like determining, oh man, we're different.
Yeah.
We're
The
unique.
start of magic, basically.
Yeah, the start of magic. And you have like this society of wizards that are like, hey, we're going to try to orchestrate this. We're going to set up this whole ministry of magic. We're going to be orchestrated. But you get to play as like someone like kind of on the frontier, like one of the last explorers. Like you're like basically entry level Hagrid of like, hey, we need you to figure out like what these monsters are and like what they can do and how like are they in like the real world or like how does this work
And how to find them.
Yeah, and basically and like how to find them and like track them and like log them and stuff. Everything from it could almost be like sort of close, like not really Pokemon, but like same kind of exploratory concept. It could be a basic game. It doesn't have to be like a AAA ridiculous game, but like that'd be really cool if like it would be like the most unique take on you're the last explorer.
Yeah.
Like you're exploring the unknown magic world, like you're the last one. And it's like that's just it'd be such a weird concept, and that's something that like when I was thinking about this, I was trying to think of like weird stuff, and I was like, I thought about like a Pokemon AR game, about like how cool that would be, and I was like, man, I think
you mean like the one that's already there?
No, I mean like a Pokemon.
More
yeah, exactly, yeah. No, I mean like just imagine like you said like stadiums and stuff. Like when I was thinking about it, I was thinking more like Disney. Like imagine a Disneyland that is like 80% AR.
Yeah.
One, You know how easy it'd be to theme that for Christmas? You know how cheap that would be?
Do you know how pissed parents would be for that ticket price?
I mean, yeah.
There's nothing here.
You know, you
Not
have to
bunch of signing
download the additional winter DLC.
Do you want to see snow? That costs $5.
I always it blew my still to this day blows my mind that WB has not gotten the Rocksteady or whomever to do a Harry Potter game that takes place 30 years ahead of Fantastic Beasts. So like right after World War II, where you could play as a student. It's Bully in Harry Potter. So you come in, you answer a bunch of questions. They're not easy questions of like, would you be mean to your friend? Like really deep psychological questions that are hard to map, that put you in your house, and then you would spend a school year there. So you had to juggle: do I go to class? Do I want to go and like hang out with some friends? Do I want to go train here? Like this is going to take time. You
Sims
have a
Harry
limited amount
Potter.
of time. What?
Sims Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was Sims kind of, but have an actual narrative there. And I always felt like Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw were kind of left out. So having the villain be like a senior student in Ravenclaw who wanted to find the diadem, her crown from who was hoping like that. Turns out it has like ability to access more knowledge for you. Like you can remember more. You're more intelligent when you wear it, and have this whole scheme about this character plotting. And so it is a Harry Potter adventure that has nothing to do with Voldemort or Harry Potter. And has to deal with the mythos of Hogwarts a little bit more, the mythos of the world. You could customize your character a little bit, so like not just the look, but whatever magic spells you went into, whatever classes you excelled at, you could increase those spells. And there would be actual real-time combat where you would have to fight off creatures, other students. People could challenge you to a duel. You could do online interplay where people can come and visit you at school events, so they're coming from other schools in your fight. Like
Interesting.
So much there. And the grounds are open, and it's Metroidvania. So, like, you don't have this spell, you can't access this area. But you come back later, you have that spell. And not only is there something hidden here,
Go to class, you learn that spell, and there you go.
Exactly. Like, there's so much to play there, and it's just never been made. I don't know how. How?
What I think is also another thing that's, I guess, not been. I feel like it's kind of been tapped in movies, but it's never really been done in gaming. Is like you could just stay on the Harry Potter vein. Just imagine like the concept I said of like an older Harry Potter game, but like just having it being like, oh, you know the bubonic plague? Yeah, it's really some monsters, man.
That'd
like
be
you
cool.
could just tie in like, you know, like the old Pompeii volcanic explosion or whatever. Like God of War does it a little bit with gods and whatnot. But you could throw in like, hey, God of War, like, hey, Kratos really got mad. He just blew up an island.
Yeah, like
and
really playing with our real world.
Like real world, and then
mythos
it's like cool,
using
like,
their world.
and that's like what a 7-year-old would tell you, like, oh, you're gonna be really cool if Kratos like calls the Pompeii thing, or like whatever. Like you could just tie in so many real world events, like the wars and whatnot.
I agree.
You could even have like a Captain America, in World War I and II, or whatever.
Wolverine.
You could have Wolverine
as
there.
it goes through.
Yeah. And I think these are just cool perspective, and it's like, just like we said, it may be concepts where games have been like, oh yeah, those be really cool, and then like, whatever, but that is actually really terrible.
Well, and I also don't think like I think what we've done a very good job of touching is like the concepts. Some of these, especially mine, are like very typical, but a lot of what you guys are talking about are also very out there and different because it's not how we view games today. Like I have said forever, I'm blown away that Telltale did a Batman series, not a Superman series, because Superman is kind of hard to tackle with that power struggle.
Yeah.
Like QTE and visual novel style, essentially, where it is a cinematic playing in front of you, sounds perfect for that character.
Yep.
Like really diving into the depths and the various genres we have to really make this work, I think would be super interesting.
Yep.
Super interesting.
Yeah, and it's just very odd because I think that I guess we just miss a lot, and it may be playing off safety, but I feel like we're, especially in the movie genre, we're getting to the point now where it's so much recycled content, and it's so much like of the same old, same old. And granted, the movies, I understand big budgets, whatever, but like gaming, you can make gaming anything. That's the glory of gaming. It doesn't have to be real. Like, no one plays WoW because it's real. You don't play Rocket League because it's real. Like, these are crazy ideas that people are like, hey, this is a cool thing. Whereas, like, sure, I wouldn't go watch a Rocket League movie. Like, that sounds weird.
You mean
But
like an emoji movie?
Yeah, I wouldn't go watch that either. I didn't. Or Pixels or any of that stuff. But, like, when it comes to gaming, like, you can do crazy. You can do anything.
Yeah.
It's the glory of it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's, I mean, if you had told me that there would be a prevalent genre in which it was a typing or word forming game that involves combat for RPG elements. Like that's how you combat things is you find words in a scramble and that's how your character attacks. Never in a million years would I've been like, yeah, that's something that's going to happen. But that's some weird brain who was like, hey, this works. People like it and they've emulated it. It's the match 3.
Somebody POC'd it once, proof of concept once, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, this works.
This works. This is really cool. So I think there's plenty of space to play for sure. I mean, we are, as an industry, games are so new. So, like, in the level of, like, you know, picture the movies, TV, they're just getting color. Like, if you're looking at the actual history of games, we are so like far from being anywhere close to like topping out.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I just think that like it's very odd because I feel like we get so genre pinched. Like we go through like waves of like, oh well, we all need MMOs or we all need MOBAs or now we all need BRs or whatever. It's like
shared world shooters.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you could just do anything. Like that's the best part about gaming. Like Pokemon Go, like that's such a crazy far-fetched concept 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's like everyone's like, oh, we could do this with Harry Potter and we could do this with every other game. And it's like, no, you could just do another original idea. It's another great idea. Just throw that out there.
Yep.
Just
Literally
stay original.
anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I just want to see more creativity, and I would like to see more people like Cory Barlog and others, you know, be able to take the reins of some of these. Like him talking about the Superman thing. That was one of the things where I was like, dude, I'd play that.
Yeah.
I'd totally give it a shot. And it's like the same thing of when Max Landis got the Superman comic out. I was like, I'm going to read it. It's going to be different. I don't care that it's different. I'm going to try it.
I think there's plenty of that out there. It's just not with these major properties.
It's not with
quality. That's what you're asking.
I guess QC is also to an extent.
Because I definitely think like if we went through that list of Nindies and Nintendo's little thing, and I could tell you right now, like, annoying Goose Simulator is way different than anything we've all played here at this table.
Yeah.
like I think it's out there, but it's not prominent. You have to dig for it. There are every now and then there is the weird one that comes up, and you're like, wow, that was really cool. We need more of that. And then you get too much of it, and then it dies down again. So I think that's where also we as consumers have to talk and be like, hey, this thing's cool. Like we were talking about earlier. Here's $4. Go buy this on your account so they know they got another download.
Yeah.
You need to help push those things you're passionate about and help. I mean, we live in a world where most companies are more in touch with their consumers than ever before. Some less willing to do so than others, but it doesn't mean that your voice is completely ignored. You have a shot. There's always a shot.
Yep.
Whereas beforehand, forget about it. Like, yeah, you can mail a letter, but there's no guarantee it's going anywhere. Where at least here, you know, there is that chance that one community manager is on Twitter that day.
Yep.
Give it your shot.
And they may reply to you. You never know.
Yeah. So.
Just like, you know, when you take shots at somebody for a guacamole and how the beat is dead. And then all of a sudden, it's juice box, right?
Drink box.
Drink box. I don't know why I call it juice box.
It's okay.
Drink box, you know, just favorites things.
Made me so happy. Made me so happy.
How's a Guacamole 2, by the way?
Guacamole 2 is wonderful. Someone we work with has been helping me slowly whittle away at the trophies, which I didn't expect.
Weed waddle.
Is it the person that I
his name starts with a K.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
the person I saw you with. Yeah.
It was totally one of those things where it's not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Totally just didn't expect it. And
That's
he
Owen
is
Wilson,
in it.
wow.
Yeah, wow. He's in it like I'm in it. So we're like coordinating. Like tomorrow, I'm like, all right, with lunch, you know, make sure you're ready. I'm gonna be in. What's your meeting schedule? Because we're gonna make this
you gotta
work.
go move the car in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, there's that too. but it is a wonderful game. Beat it already. Working my way to that platinum eventually.
Are you making your way downtown?
Walking fast.
Faces pass.
Hey.
Homebound.
So I believe that is the end of Strange Conversation. This is super duper, man. Strange Conversations. We will be back in a week, hopefully with one other person. If he's not here, he really did die.
We don't want that to happen.
As always, because I plan ahead, unlike some individuals. Aim for the bushes.